Well, it's good to be with you all, and it's good to be with some familiar faces. I think we've been here, this is our third time, is it? I'm sure it's our third time.
Yeah.
And I don't think I need to talk to you about the whole story of how the Oaks came about and how God spoke to us and how we set up this house, which you can see on the picture over there. This is marvellous in our eyes, and it's the Lord's doing, because it really, really is. So I won't tell you about the whole thing, but what I will do is I have got PowerPoints, which I'll show you some pictures of it. But anyway, I brought some guys with me, so I'll make them stand up and turn around actually. So if you stand up, guys, and you as well, Joyce and Jane and Isaac. So anyway, I shall come and introduce them. So this is Daniel. He looks like Billy Elliot, for those of you who watch Billy Elliot. Oh, sorry, I've got sunburn, I just remembered. And this is Paul, not Paul, Paul, because he's from London, Paul. So say hello, Paul.
Hello.
Oh,
Hello, Paul.
And this is Jamie, he's from Bolton. He's the big guy. And this is Joyce that lives around the corner from us in Wythenshawe, who's, I suppose, fruit of the work we do, because we met Joyce on the streets in Wythenshawe, talked to her, prayed with her, led her to the Lord, and then not long ago, well, maybe a few months after, baptised her as well, so that's a wonderful thing, isn't it? This is my son Isaac over there. He loves standing up and introducing himself. See how just and this is my wonderful wife, Jane, my beautiful wife, Jane. There you go. Oh, so we've got the slides working, haven't we? So anyway, I'll just leave these slides on in the background, and you can see a little bit of the house. We started this work about 3.5 years ago, and up to 4 years ago. And the work really is we work with guys who are coming out of prison, people who've met with Jesus in prison. We work with guys who are coming out of rehabilitation centres, maybe drug and alcohol rehabilitation centres, who too have found Jesus. And what we do is we help them in the next phase of life. We help them to live in a family, because the Oaks is a, as you can see, that a lot of these pictures are from when we first started. It doesn't look like that now. You'll see as it goes along because the pictures change. But basically we work with people for about between 12 and 18 months. And 18 months is our desired time, really. And what we are is we're a discipleship house. We are a missional community, so we go into prisons, we go into soup kitchens. The guys give their stories, tell their stories, and it's great because some of our guys can really, well, they've been where some of the guys we work with have been. So when we speak to prisoners, some of our guys know exactly what it's like to be in prison. When we go into the soup kitchens, some of our guys know what it's like to be homeless. So we go into those places, we do outreaches, and we see lots of people coming to know the Lord through that work. But we're also a family, and this is so important because this is where you learn how to live your life, isn't it? This is where your boundaries get set, this is where your norms come from, this is where you develop them, it comes from family. So we are a family. I remember one day, one guy was asked, what's so good about the Oaks? And he said, well, we know that we're a family because it says in the Bible. It says, but we feel like a family. Because we are a family. And that was the thing that probably blessed me most more than anything, because that's the thing that God has done. God has done that within us, and it's not something you can contrive to do, it's only something that happens naturally through the love of God and through understanding God, placing God's family. So we did this about 3.5 years ago, 4 years ago, and as you can see, we've got quite, well, these are the before and after pictures. That's what that picture now looks like. And that's what it doesn't look as tidy as that probably this morning. Because, you know, where there's no cattle in the stalls, there's no mess, the Bible says, doesn't it? That's our lounge there in our conservatory, which now looks like... Well, it not actually, we're a bit further on than that. That was the work halfway through. The next picture, which will come on... No, it's not bad. Oh, it's nice anyway. It's nice. It's got a nice. We call it the sleeping room. We try not to do too much work in there because you just fall asleep in that room. Our bedrooms all look the same. They pretty much look like that. They're nice. They're tidy. We didn't want something that was bargain based. We didn't want something that looked. What's the best way to put it? We wanted something that looked beautiful because we wanted something to show God's glory and how important the image of God is in us. So we wanted the rooms to be beautiful because we want people to understand that in the Lord's house we are beautiful. There's our wet room, that's our disabled bathroom. Have we actually, is this the second time we're going through it? Is this the first run? Is this still the first run?
Yeah.
There's a lot of photos, isn't there? We had a lift shaft. And we took we took all the stuff out of it, and we ended up with 2 bathrooms. We didn't realise how big the lift shaft was, but you know, you see the doors, but when you take it all out, it's quite a big room. And that's what all our bathrooms look like, apart from the wet room. That was the back garden. In fact, that was the back garden halfway through the work. When we started, it was like a jungle. And we've got an oak tree right in the middle of the back garden. And the project is called The Oaks, taken from Isaiah 61, about oaks of righteousness. Because we see a lot of Christians, don't we? It's the here today, gone tomorrow, parable of the sower. Well, that's our kitchen as it is now. Obviously a lot neater than it probably is this morning. Because it's lived in now, but that was when the work got done. And God really blessed us. Yeah, that's it, that's more like it. The cups on the side. But it's lived in. And God has provided all this. And God's done miracles. And I've been before and told the story. Maybe if you want to know the story more, you can talk to me afterwards. But really what I want to do now is introduce 3 of our guys. We're all going to give you their short stories. So who's first? Jamie. So this is Jamie from Bolton. So give a round of applause.
So I can just say thank you so much for having us here. I mean, what a blessing it is to come here and be able to speak and share my story with you. And my story started in the 90s. I got brought up in Bolton, and I was the youngest of 3 boys. And in the house, my mum and dad split up when I was a very young age. So in the house, my mum had had various boyfriends over the years, and she used to get knocked about. You know, she was in a few violent relationships, so I got brought up seeing a lot of violence. But the answer to that violence was running around the corner, because it was a small estate, and shouting my dad from his flat to come round. And then from there, he'd come and sort the guys out. So to me, violence was the answer, you know, to solve violence or anger. Use violence or anger. So I lived my life like this for a few years. And then, when I was 13, my mum was with a guy who I treated him really badly, because I thought he was going to be like the rest of them, just going to knock him about and stuff. And she got pregnant, she fell pregnant with a baby, and then she lost the baby at a late stage of pregnancy. So I should have had a little sister. That was the first funeral I ever attended. And then the year after, when I was 14, my brother, who was 18 at the time, I shared a bedroom with him all my life. He succumbed to a heart condition, so he passed away. That was the 2nd funeral in 2 years. By this point, I started taking drugs to try and suppress the problem that was inside me, not to deal with it. And I could have dealt with it. I could have gone to school, I could have, started getting counselling and stuff and getting help because it was available. But I didn't want to. I wanted to try and do things my own way, and I didn't want to deal with it. That was the main thing, so I started taking drugs. When I was 15, I lost my granddad to cancer. So I was on a slippery slope at this point. I'd been kicked out of school and relocated to another school. Been kicked out of the house various times, going from my mum's house to my dad's house and vice versa. And then when I was 16, I was sharing a flat with my dad, and then he ended up killing himself. So I gone out one weekend, went to go back, and I had no house to go back to basically. So that led me into sofa surfing for years. So for about 3 years I was sofa surfing, and there was a guy that put me up, and his family took me in, and I was there for about 18 months staying at his house. And then as the years went by, I sort of got on my feet, started getting jobs and stuff, but then losing the jobs. And then I met the glorious world of going to the pub at weekends, which meant I was fighting all the time in the pub. You know, I was chaotic, my life was very erratic, and I needed stability. It was something that I couldn't find, searching in every avenue I couldn't find it. And then in 2015, I got sent to jail for committing criminal damage on the estate that I lived. And it was the final straw. It was the straw that brought the cameras back on the estate, basically, for the police. So I only spent a short time in prison. I was only there for 3 weeks, but it was long enough to realise that, look, it's now or never. If I don't start to sort my life out now, then I'm going to have no life to live. So then, over the course of 3 years, I ended up with a girlfriend, a job, a house and a dog. So I was in my mid-20s and I thought, right, this is it. I've got everything a young lad needs. But I didn't have Jesus, so it all fell to bits. It started with the girlfriend leaving me because of the way I was treating her and the way I was treating my body and the way I was treating my house. So she left me, which caused me to drink more. And then I ended up losing the job, which left me with no other options to go and sign on at the job centre. I went to walk in the job centre one day, I had a panic attack outside because of the drugs that I'd been taking and the anxiety what I had and all the mental issues what comes with the lifestyle that I was living. I couldn't walk in the job centre, there was something stopping me from walking in physically and mentally. I couldn't face up to the problem that I got myself in. And then, so I'm left at home with a house which I wasn't paying rent for. I was renting the house out of the money at this point, sorry, but I wasn't paying rent for it, I wasn't able to, because because I wasn't claiming housing benefit or anything, and I didn't have another job. So I turned up at home one day, so I was just expecting my dog to be there. It was the happiest moment of my life, walking in and the dog coming running towards me. It was like, that was my peace and that was my happiness. And I walked in one day and it was silent in the house. So I thought, what's the thought? I was dog dead, what's going on? So I'm sitting around the house looking for him. And there was a note on the side of my mum. It said, if you can't look after the house, if you can't pay the bills, if you can't feed yourself, then how are you looking after the dog? And then it hit me suddenly, I'm all alone. You know, I've got nothing. I've got a house which was an empty shell, no electric on the meter, no nothing. So then I was walking around, I think I walked around, full of self-pity, gone to my friend's house. It was the friend that had put me up for 18 months previously. Gone to his house, asking him for some money so I could put some money on the electric meter. There was something different about him. He was chubby, he was smiling, he had a lifestyle of drugs and abuse when he was a child, but there was a light shining through him. So I could go, so what the doctor's got you on, what prescription are you on? He said, I've got Jesus in my life. So I laughed even harder. I said, not a chance. I said, there's no such thing. Go out with all sorts of blasphemies. And then he started telling me that Jesus loves him, and Jesus loves me, and he's been forgiven for his sins, and he's forgiven the other people that have sinned against him. And I need to do the same, I need to start the process of doing the same. So first of all, he's lost the plot, but I kept on going round. I thought, I'm going to wait till he falls, and then I can say, right, you was wrong, I was right, and try and get the moral high ground. But something happened over the course of a few weeks, and something birthed inside me. It was a desire to find out for myself, it was a desire to pick up the Bible myself and get the knowledge in for myself. And I didn't stop reading the Bible. I couldn't stop, and I started attending church, and I loved it. I walked in, and there was a room about the same size as this, and I walked in, and there were people who I treated like a dog for years. I smashed the windows, I set the cars on fire, I had fights with the family members, and there was those showing me love, and showing me a cup of tea, showing me a nice comfy seat. And I didn't understand it, but that was the love of God pouring out through them to me. So I've got a real hunger for the Lord. But also I've not dealt with any issues like you see the house, or you seen the house a minute ago. It was a process of getting it from how it was and then building it up to what it is now, and then filling it with people. And that's what I needed to do, but the more I tried, the more I go to the public weekends, the more I drink and feel sorry for myself, and then go to church on a Sunday and think I could live like that. But then I went home one night to the house, there was an electric on the meter again, there were 3 bottles of martini on the side, so I drank them and said, right Lord, I don't know what else to do, but I'm thinking about taking my own life, so either you step in and change my life like you have done with other people in the Bible, and like I've seen other people's lives, or I'm taking mine, because I don't want to live like this no more. I want to change, I want to live for you, or I want to do bits in my life, I want to feel significance, but I don't want to do it on my own strength, I need your help to do it. And 7 days later, I got an application form, and then someone came over to me and said, would you change your life? I'm like, I had an argument with her because I thought she was in my house that night, but it turned out that was the answer to my prayer. I got the opportunity to change. So I moved in the Oaks about 10 months ago, and I was telling our story, my hair was everywhere, my emotions were worse than my hair. And then it started a process in me where everything that I suppressed, everything that I pushed down, instead of pushing it down to the point where it explodes, where I start attacking people and start feeling bad about myself, it's a process of dealing with it, but not dealing with it myself, dealing with it with my family, dealing with it with the Lord. Do you know what I mean? And now, yeah, it's been an emotional roller coaster, but it's not like an emotional roller coaster, it's like an emotional train ride, because at every stop I'm releasing something else to the Lord, and then something else will get on what I need to deal with, and then there's the next stop where I can release him. But I love it, and you know what, I'm so thankful for the work that gets done there, and that's me.
Thank you for having me. I just want to start. I had a bad upbringing. My life started quite negatively. I was born with a heroin addiction. I was rattling when I came from my mum. At this stage, my life was quite bad as a young lad. My mum was very, very aggressive, and my partner was very aggressive as well, to the point where she beat me up and bust my head open above my eye and broke 4 of my ribs. I was 6 years old at this time. It came to the point where I had to fake having fits to make her stop, but this never made her stop. This made it go worse. At this time, at 6 years old, I ended up becoming adopted by my nana. But from there, I had a hate for people. I had a massive, massive hate in my life. To the point where I'd grow up and there was nothing inside of me. There was no love at all. I had hate against my nana. I had hate against everybody in my life. There was absolutely no love whatsoever inside me. To the point, at the age of 13, I ended up getting involved with a gang of people on the estate. This was a gang of at least 14 people, to the point where we'd meet up in the park and fight rival gangs, and we'd fight them to the point where we'd nearly have death, to the point where we'd be using bats, chains, knives, anything, and we would be battering each other just for the sake of being accepted. Because this is the point in our lives where we thought we was accepted, we had something in our lives, we had something actually to fight for, and that's what we did, we fought each other. Most of these people in that gang were the same sort of upbringing. From there, at 16 years old, my nana passed away with cancer. This was the person who was bringing me up. At this point, I had to go back to my mum's house. So I got brought up on an estate called Rylands, where then I had to go to an estate called Morecambe, where it was called the West End. It was kind of a traumatic time in my life at the age of 16 to go back there, because not only did she no more abuse me physically, she mentally abused me, because I was dead inside, to the point where I would do anything for her love. I would do anything, because that was the one thing I realised I was searching for, was the love of my parents. To the point of that life, my mum mentally abused me to the age of 24 years old, to the point where I'd be doing errands for her. I'd be doing things. I'm lucky I didn't go to jail like Paul and like Jamie, to the point where I'd tie people up and I'd beat them up for my parents to get money for them. To the point where they would be lighting houses on fire. To the point where literally my life was destroyed, where I was destroying other people's lives. So then I thought I was getting that fulfillment of my mother. So then she would be able to get food. So then she would be able to get money for her drug abuse, for her drug addiction. At the age of 24, I ended up becoming street homeless, and I ended up going to Lancaster, back to my old town. I lost everything I ever had in my life. But that was the most humbling time in my life, and it was one of the greatest moments of my whole entire life. Because at that point, I ended up finding Jesus Christ in my life. Because I got on my hands and knees and I prayed to the Lord, and I said to him, Lord, if this is my life, take me out of this world now. I said, take me out of this world, because I don't want this no more. I don't want this life what I had at all, ever again. Ever again. The next day I was walking past the church called St. Thomas's. And at that time, I felt drawn to come in, compelled me to come in. This feeling was drawing me in. I never felt something in my life so strong in my life, inside my heart. I walked into this place, and there was a scripture getting told, all you are heavy weary, all you are heavy laden and weary, come to me and I'll give you rest. For my yoke is easy, my burden is light. At that time, as that scripture was said, I turned around and was about to walk out, and this man called Vic Batchford ran up to me. He said, that scripture was for you. Little did I know that answer was to prayer. For 3 months, that man sacrificed his own life to work, to minister to me while I was street homeless. And he came to me every day. He bought me food, and every day he would read the Bible to me, and we would go for a coffee every single day. At this time, I ended up getting baptised on the 7th of January last year. The next day, after my baptism, I ended up going just to Argos by a tent, because the weather was quite bad. And as I was coming out of Argos with the tent, there was a woman that I was at the same school of. She was my teacher in school. Little did I know that she went to the same church. Little did I know that God had a massive answer to my prayer and wanted me in his life. And he wanted me to have him in my life. Because at this day, this woman only put me up for a day, but then she said to me, I want you here for a long time. She put me up for a year. She put me up for a whole year, where then I could restore the brokenness, the years the locust have eaten. This woman showed me a mother that I never had in my life. This woman restored a lot of brokenness in my heart through God. This woman was an absolute answer to prayer, a mother that I needed. God answered a prayer to me and gave me an orphan into a home, a family that was loved. But at this stage, I ended up becoming numb, comfortably numb, because I loved every little bit of this, what I was getting. and I wanted to just not change. I wanted this, but I knew I had to move forward in my life. I knew I had to, and God gave me a vision of a place that He wants me to go. And this place was the MEC, but not only the MEC, He gave me another vision the next day of the Oaks, which later I didn't know, I found out it was the Oaks. It was the house and the place where the world was given up on, but He hasn't. This is what the Lord said to me, the world was given up on, but I haven't. Yeah, and the next day, no actually, 7 days later actually it was, 7 days later, Vic Batchford, the person who was ministering to me for a whole year and 3 months, for a whole year and 7 months altogether, literally give me that answer to that vision, give me an application form for the Oaks. But later on, when I came for my week interview for my week trial, that was the exact same picture in my head of what God gave me of that building. Exactly the same picture was the MEC building that was in my vision. Both of them buildings that God has literally answered, has literally put in my brain, yeah, were them buildings. And from that moment, my life has started. The Oaks is literally, the Oaks is making me move forward in my life through God's help. So I just want to leave with that. In Jesus' name.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. Praise be to God. I've been out of prison 5 months now, and the Oaks is 7 at a time. I'm going to give you a bit about my life before I knew Jesus, and now I know Jesus as Lord and Saviour. I'm from a rough council estate in East London. I'm the oldest of 3 boys. Growing up, I can't say I had a bad upbringing, but it wasn't great. It could have been a lot better. I remember lack of love. I never had that male role model in my life. My first memory of my dad is going to visit him in prison. There was different men that were coming in and out of my life, but there was never that stable role model. In school, I didn't like school. I was always a class clown, wanting attention, wanting to stand out. At the age of I started bunking off at the age of about 11 years old. I remember not enjoying it. I was feeling lost. I just didn't want to be in that situation, so I started bunking off. I first done drugs at the age of 11 also, drinking and smoking weed, bunking off back of the bike sheds in the forest, things like that. But yeah, at the age of 11 I done my first drugs, and at the age of 14 I was doing heroin. I used to have my mum, wait, hold on, I got a bit confused here. Let me read up this a bit. Right, yeah, first at age 11 I done drugs, which was weed and drink. And yeah, I left school at 14. My mum would be working all day and my brothers would be at school, so I had a free house. And a lot of people would come around my house, and older lot from the estate would come round and they would smoke weed and drink. And I remember they come around one time and they had foil, and they were doing something on the foil. They would put this blob on the foil, run it, inhale it, and they would sit back all content and just look at peace and look comfortable. Next time they come, I asked them for some, and it was heroin. I had some heroin. It's the first time I had heroin at 14. I remember throwing up everywhere, but I liked the buzz it gave me. I felt like I'd found something. I felt content. I felt comfortable. The next year I was on heroin, so I'm 14 and got a heroin habit. I was still off my mum, I was still off my brothers. It got to the stage where no one wanted me around the house. My dad was out of prison by this point. My mum phoned me and said, look, if you don't come and get him, I'm going to kick him out. So my dad came from the other side of London and took me to Heath. I managed to get off the drugs at that point. I got my first job at the age of 16. And this is working in a print industry. So I would work all week, and all my money I would spend on the weekend. I started going out clubbing, sniffing coke, doing bills. This happened for like a good 5-6 years. It was the same cycle. I would work all week and spend all my money on rubbish, trying to search for something. I met my first serious girlfriend at about the age of 23. This was an abusive relationship. I had a lot of issues. I had a lot of insecurity problems. Both of us were arrested for domestic violence. We would drink, you see, and when I drink, I was a horrible person. So we would end up fighting. I would be looking at a phone. If she spoke to another man, I would be very jealous. So yeah, this went on for quite a long time. I met some guy at community service who used to sell heroin. He said to me, but after I got to know him a little bit, he said to me, you don't want to sell drugs for him. He didn't need to ask me twice. Straight away I'm thinking, yeah, I can make some money, I can carry on living the life I was leading. I started to sell drugs for this guy now. It didn't last long. I ended up robbing him for £2 grand and a parcel of drugs. And I just left my flat and went to a hostel and stayed in this hostel for a while. The parcel lasted for 2 or 3 days of drugs, spent all the money on more drugs. Once the drugs had gone, I spent it on more drugs. And yeah, this carried on. Then I started shoplifting, because now I've got a heroin and crack habit, and I've got no way of paying for it. so I started shoplifting. Today I've got 59 offences and 30 convictions. I know that may sound like a lot, it is a lot, but what I would do is I would go out shoplifting continually. I would go and make money, do my drugs, and then go out again. So I was out 3 or 4 times a day, stealing, robbing, looking to make money. My whole life was just drugs. I couldn't live life in life's terms. I wanted to feel different. I just didn't want to be in this world and live how the world should tell me to live. So yeah, then I ended up getting 5 years for armed robbery. See, where I was doing more drugs, I needed more money, so my crimes upped. I ended up doing armed robbery and I got caught for that, and I got 5 years for that. I started injecting drugs as well, but this is what led to me making more money, because when you inject drugs, you want more and more of it. So yeah, I started injecting drugs. I've injected drugs nearly in every vein of my body. I had a blood clot in my left leg. I'm in the hospital now, in the toilet, injecting in the other leg, doing the same thing that caused this blood clot, doing it in the same leg. This is the insanity of the addiction. It was crazy. I've been begging on the streets. I've robbed people. I've been stabbed. I've overdosed 3 times. I've been brought back to life twice. One time the ambulance found me, I was blue, my whole body. If the ambulance would have found me 1 minute later, I would not be here now speaking to you. So yeah, God is so good. And yeah, as I said, I've got 5 years prison. During this time, I would always pray. I would say the same prayer, the Lord's Prayer, and a repetitive prayer, asking Jesus to come into my life, show me how to live, saying sorry to my victims, praying for my family. And then 6 months left of my sentence, I was going through a bad stage, and I started smoking spice. And that spice opens spiritual realms. It lets us hear and see things we shouldn't be involved in. So yeah, I had a spliff of spice. And then I was behind my cell door. This was like about 4 o'clock on a Saturday, so it was early bang up. And an hour after I smoked this spliff, I started getting oppressed by an evil spirit. It's like, you've all got that voice in your head. It was the same things going over and over in my head again. Blasphemies, the worst things you can think of, condemning me, accusations. And I thought I was gone. I thought I was never coming back from this. I was sort of knew what was happening, but I couldn't do anything about it. It was horrible. And without meaning to speak, I said, Father, and I heard God speak to me in an audio voice. He said, Paul, you are a chosen one. The evil thought stopped. I couldn't move. I remember I was sitting on my bed. I just started crying. I was in awe and I couldn't move. And from that day, I've not touched drugs. And my whole life is different from that day. Like, my whole life is for Jesus now. I got released and moved into the Oaks. And the same day I got released, in the morning, I'm in a 6 by 12 foot box. The same night, I'm at Emily Henry in Manchester, worshiping the Lord with 6,000 Christians. I now live in the Oaks, and at the Oaks, I'm so blessed to be there. It is a family, there's unity, we have Bible for breakfast, we wake up and get into the Word, and that's what we need to do for us. We need structure, we need foundation. We go to prisons giving our testimonies. We need to help people. We see the world's in a bad place now, but we're disciples, He's equipping us to go out and spread the good news. And that's what we have to do. As I say, we're a family, we eat together. If our brothers and sisters are down, we pray for each other. It's just love, and it's all about love. And if you don't know anyone that's struggling, get an application form, come and speak to us after, and I promise you, you will not regret sending to the Oaks. We're truly blessed to be there, and I carry our cross with Jesus, and I'll proclaim His name forever. Praise be to God. Thank you. That's you, Simon.
Like St. Paul, isn't it? It's amazing, isn't it? The depths of brokenness that God can get into and save and change lives. It's wonderful, isn't it? You know, because you wouldn't meet any of those guys before they were saved. Well, you wouldn't have wanted to start with. Well, you would have thought, no hope. And that's natural thinking, isn't it? We would think that, but the grace of God is incredible, isn't it? What God can do.
Yeah.
And the Oaks exists to take these seedlings, these new Christians, and to raise them up as oaks of righteousness. Because if you read that chapter, it goes on to say that they will rebuild the broken walls. Who's the they? It's the people. It's these type of people. And Paul said to me, he said, we have Bible for breakfast. And I just want to give you, how long have we got, by the way? So I don't want to go too long.
What time do you normally finish? 12:30.
How long have we got?
20 minutes.
I don't think it'll be that long. I think it'll be a lot longer. No, I'm only joking.
I've got my chicken in the oven.
Get your chicken in the oven. It'll be a sparrow when you get back. I'm only joking. I want to read you something probably the pinnacle of all Scripture. I think the climax of all Scripture. It's said by St. Paul. It's Romans 8:15. For you did not receive a spirit that makes you a slave again to fear, but you received the spirit of sonship. So daughters as well, you understand this, I assume. You received the spirit of sonship, and by him we cry, Abba, Father, Daddy. The Spirit himself testifies with our spirit that we're God's children. Now if we are God's children, then we are heirs, heirs of God, and co-heirs with Christ. If indeed we share in his sufferings, in order that we may also share his glory. Wonderful part of Scripture. Scripture was waiting for this moment, wasn't it? All of history was waiting for this moment, it says. It says the world was waiting for this moment. It says that the creation was groaning for this moment. When people like this, like me, like you actually, because do you know something? You might have never been to prison. In fact, put your hands up if you've been to prison. Okay. Okay, prison visitors. Yeah. Okay. Now, you might look around and think, oh, I haven't done anything like that, but you have, because you were an offender on death row. We were all offenders on death row, every single one of us. And God loves the ex-men, ex-drug dealers, ex-drug takers, ex-thieves, ex-prostitutes. God loves all the ex-men and women, he really, really does. And because we're all ex-offenders, every single one of us, all on death row, receiving the worst penalty possible for our sin. But Scripture was saying that there would come a day. The Old Testament talks about it all the way through. It says there'll be a new covenant written in men and women's hearts, where the law would be in our hearts. And that's what they were looking forward to, because Jesus comes the first time round. They didn't quite get it, did they? They didn't quite get it because they thought he would come down and he would sort all the problems out, that he would kick the Romans out, and that he would be this coming Messiah who would be the king who would reign and rule on the earth, and all the enemies would be vanquished, and Israel would be just wonderfully glorious again. That's what they were looking for. But those that had heard from the Spirit, those that perceived and understood and knew that Jesus came first and foremost for subjects, didn't he? He came not to be the ruler and reigner of all the earth with an iron scepter, but he came for subjects. He came to redeem mankind so that we could become subjects first. See, you have to be subject before you can be the king, if you know what I mean. Does that make sense? He came to sort out the problem with us. And the whole Bible really just gives us the option of, it's not so much the righteousness, because we can't give it, because Paul tells us we can't give that righteousness. But what he does do, he says, I will be your king, but I'll also be your righteousness. I'll be your king, and I'll be the subject within you. It's an irresistible offer, isn't it? Because it's an impossible thing. But what is impossible with man, like these men, is possible with God, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's possible with God that God can change any heart. He takes a heart of stone and he gives us a heart of flesh. It's wonderful, isn't it? And no wonder, was it Peter said, whoa, who can be saved then, Lord? He said, no one, unless God does it, because that's a miracle. Because God works the salvation in, doesn't he? But we work it out. That sanctification journey. But it says sons and heirs. There's two aspects to this. You see, there's the privilege of being a son or daughter. I'm talking the same thing. There's a privilege there, isn't there, of that? That's the first bit. But the second bit is the responsibility. Heirs. And you see, the thing is it'd be great, wouldn't it, if these guys now just settled down and had nice lives. They all got married, had 2 children, got a good job, got a car, got a house. People would accept that, wouldn't they? They'd say that was pretty normal. But actually, it's not really what the Bible and what the New Testament is wanting for us. It's not wanting us to move, to get saved and come out of what we were in and then go somewhere nice. Actually, we're sons and heirs. In fact, we've now responsibilities. We've now got a calling, a mission to do the things of God. Because our business is the kingdom, isn't it? Because if we are subjects, we're subjects of the kingdom, of the king. You see, the kingdom and the church is not the same thing, is it? We are to do the kingdom stuff out there. Because Jesus said, I will build my church. But actually, we're the ambassadors of the kingdom. You see, we should be kingdom focused. I think sometimes we're a bit too church focused. Am I making sense here? Because sometimes people don't quite understand this. I know what I'm trying to say, but I'm not sure whether I can get it out properly. You see, our job is the kingdom. But Jesus said he would build his church. It's his kingdom. But we're out there to be ambassadors to show the kingdom and what the kingdom is about. This morning, in our, like Paul says, he says every morning we have Bible for breakfast. We do. Every morning, 7:15, 45 minutes at least, we'll read the Bible. And we read it in chronological order, so we get a good understanding of the Bible as a whole. And at the moment we're in Numbers. So it's not the most exciting book to read. It's a bit easier than Leviticus, because we just finished Leviticus. But there's something everywhere in the Bible. There's always something to chew, to squeeze out, to understand, and to nourish ourselves with. Because actually, the Old Testament is in the New Testament and vice versa. The New Testament is the Old Testament concealed, isn't it? So there's always something. And we love to read the Bible. We discuss it for 45 minutes and we get various different perspectives. But we hear from the Lord regularly. Because that's what we need to do, isn't it? Daily bread, you know, is the Word of God. And our reading this morning actually was Numbers 32. I'm going to read you a little bit of it, but I'll tell you the story of where we're up to so I don't have to read it all. The children of Israel, they've got out of Egypt, they've got out of their slavery. They're going through the promised land, 40 odd years through the wilderness. And they get to the east of the promised land of Canaan. And they've got the Jordan. Well, actually, before that, they have some battles, don't they? All the Ites are fighting them everywhere. The Hittites, Jebusites, all these people, all these Ites and various tribes, Midianites and all that, they're all resisting them because they know there's a great thing to come. And whenever God calls people, there's always resistance, isn't there? If God calls you to something, there's going to be resistance, there's going to be battles. And they fight these battles. And then they get to the east of the Jordan. And it's nice there, actually. It's very nice. There's lots of pasture land, it's very good. And they're about to go in. But this is the bit, Psalm 32, Numbers 32. Let me see where to read from. The land, I'll just get in from verse, do you know what, I'll just start at 32. The Reubenites and the Gadites, and I'll just stop at some point. The Reubenites and the Gadites, who had very large herds and flocks, saw that the land of Jazer and Gilead was suitable for livestock. So they came to Moses and Elijah the priest and to the leaders of the community and said, Ataroth, Dibon, Jazer, Nimron, Heshbon, Eleah, Sebam, Nebo, Beom, the land the Lord subdued before the people of Israel, are suitable for livestock, and your servants have livestock. If we have found favour in your eyes, they said, let this land be given to your servants as our possession. Do not make us cross the Jordan. They've come out of the slavery of Egypt. They've come out of their sinful life, of what that represents for us. They come out of their slavery. And they get to this point, and God's got the Canaanite country. That's where Abraham had come through. That's where God had spoke to Abraham with this wonderful promise and said, this is your land. But there's going to be a number of years where you're going to be in slavery first. And he gives them the whole download, doesn't he? Abraham knows what's coming. But before they get into that, you've got these two tribes, Gad and Reuben, and they say, we like this land. We don't have to come into it. And you can imagine how Moses must feel at this point. You know, all the rebellions he'd had, all the people that had fallen into the earth, that fire had come down, that had been bitten by snakes, all kinds of things had happened to them because of their disobedience, stubbornness and selfishness. And Moses thinks, here's more of the same. Just when we thought it was getting good, two tribes go and bring this one on. These two tribes go and pull out their ace cards, their trump cards, and say, we want to stay here. Moses said to the Gadites and Reubenites, shall your countrymen go to war while you sit there? While you sit here? Why do you discourage the Israelites from going over into the land the Lord has given them? This is what your fathers did. So he lectures them and says, whoa, do you not realise what we've been through? Why all this? Why are you doing this now? Because some of you will know the story. They turn around and they say, no, we'll go in fight, but let's leave the women, the children here, the flocks here. Let's build little towns and fortified places. Let's walk in. We'll come in with you. And it's true. The Gideonite, do I need to stay by this, by the way? Are you recording this? No, oh, so I don't need to say that.
We get people who can.
Am I around walking around? Great stuff. I feel like hate being stuck behind the pulpit, I really do. But you see, the Gadites and the Reubenites, they wanted to stay. But Moses lectured them and told them why it was bad to stay there. He said, don't you understand? We've all got to go on. Don't you stop there just because you're comfortable, because you're happy, because you've got what you want. Don't just stay there and get comfortable, or even too comfortable. Listen, this is only part of the battle. Come with us. And of course they do go, and the Reubenites and Gadites do go in first, don't they? They go in first. They've got a point to prove, they go in first. But as we read this morning, we started discussing how, well, what does this mean for us as New Testament believers? And if you look at us as New Testament believers, you see, these boys are saved from their mess. Jamie from his life of anger and vandalism. Because Jamie was a hooligan. That's what he's trying to say, he was a hooligan. That's what he was going to prison for being a hooligan. And the drinking and the drugs just fueled that. Why? Because no purpose, no meaning, no love, no anchor in his life, no hope. And Paul, years in and out of prison, just heroin. And you know the lifestyle of heroin. Paul told you a little bit. There's no rest. You're up robbing. Addiction is a terrible thing. It will rob you of everything, and it will rob everyone of the real you. And then that ended up homeless. Born actually addicted to drugs through his mother's addiction. And that affects people, you know. But look at this now. Look at this young man now. You can see the glory of the Lord. You can see God's grace at work, changing that, bringing on that sanctification journey. Why? Because they're not just sons, they're heirs too. So God has got a plan and purposes, hasn't he? Jeremiah 29:11. And God's never wanting us just to settle and to stop. He actually wants us to go on and fulfill the purposes that God's called us to. The kingdom purposes. What did Jesus say? Seek first the kingdom, and everything else shall come. So our role is not to, or for mine, James' role, for example, was not to stay in Stockport and get too comfortable and go to church and be blessed and occasionally bless others and be nice. Because actually God's not called anyone to be nice, has he? Much more than that. He's called us to be effective. He's called us to walk in the power of the Spirit. You see, our calling is not. Our calling is to get out of our comfortable lives and to fight for those that need fighting for. Because that's, I suppose, in mine and Jen's job is to fight for these guys. And their job after this is not to sit down and get comfortable. Their job is to fight for other people. We go into prisons, we go into soup kitchens. Their job is to fight for other people. Because you've got to fight for your own peace first and foremost, don't you? We have to fight for peace. Our peace and our rest comes because of the fight. That whole picture of the Old Testament of being in Egypt and then going through the wilderness and going to the promised land is our journey as well, isn't it? Out of our old sinful life. But we have to fight for every bit of rest and every bit of peace. And what are our weapons of our warfare? They're not carnal. It's the shield of faith, it's the sword of the Spirit, it's those things, isn't it? The armour of God. But we are to go in first. Once we get saved, we are there for others. We are sons and heirs. That's why Jesus says, it's better that I go. Because if I go, you can go. If I go back up there, you can go out there. Because you'll have the Spirit of God. And when the Spirit fell on the day of Pentecost, Peter comes out, doesn't he? And he says, this was spoken of by Joel. And Paul has spoken, all flesh, your sons and daughters shall prophesy. In other words, lots of Jesus everywhere. Lots of Jesus everywhere, walking around in the people. And the Spirit of God in us to do the work that we couldn't do ourselves. You look at the difference between Peter. The minute that he comes out of that room, he's a different man, isn't he? That Peter who denied Jesus and said, oh, I don't know him because he's frightened. Suddenly there's a bold man, he's different. He's transformed. And Jesus said, didn't he? Wait for it. Wait for it, because when that comes, you'll be different. And they were. So our job is to go out there. It's not to sit back, to relax, and just enjoy the benefits. It's also the responsibilities of getting out there, doing the things that God has called us to do. It starts, doesn't it, with seeking. You know, no one can seek God for you. I mean, people can prophesy, people can give you words from the Lord, people can encourage you. But one of the many things that only we can do is seek the Lord ourselves. And it says seek on the big fan, doesn't it? And that's what we can do. We can seek the Lord for the wisdom, for the direction, for the help that we can give to other people. And God has called us not to stay east of the Jordan. Because they did return though. I mean, there's so much more we could pick out of this, but time has finished for me really. But I just wanted to encourage you. And also just to show you that how God speaks to us on a regular basis. Because every morning we get up and we read the Bible and God speaks to us. And that's what God wants to do. It's His word, isn't it? And it needs to be daily. It needs to nourish us daily so we can do the things that God has called us to do. So, say it. Can I hear it?
That poster just saw through.
Yeah.
Talking about that kind of end as well.
Yeah. Yeah, he says that God can use you. Abraham was drunk. Abraham was too old. Isaac was a dreamer. Jacob was a liar. Leah was ugly. That's a bit unfair, isn't it? She just had bad eyes, really, didn't she? Joseph was abused. I mean, look at what these people went through. God's in the business, isn't He, of changing people's lives, because there's a whole lot of people out there, isn't it? And, don't exclude yourself. Don't exclude yourself. Jesus was never a prostitute, but He could minister to prostitutes. Jesus was never a drunk, but He could minister to drunks. And that's what we've got, the Spirit of Jesus living in us, and the Holy Spirit. So don't ever think that you can't make a difference in someone's life, that you can't bring the word. So such a blessing to hear what you were saying, Barry, about being on the streets and that. Amazing. Should we pray? In fact, after we pray, Jane, do you want to just do the answer to the things that happen, please? Father God, thank you, Lord, that we are sons and we are heirs. That, Father, we're training for reigning. In fact, we are in reigning as well, Lord. Because, Lord, we don't just wait for the day when we're ready. Lord, He starts the moment we receive you, Lord. There are things we wait for, there are blessings we wait for, answers of prayer we wait for. But we know, Lord, that you said, seek first the kingdom, and everything else will come, Lord. So I just pray, Father, Lord, that you would just help us this morning to hear this word, this urgent word, that we're not just to give up, sit down, and to be comfortable, and to stay on the east of the Jordan where it's nice, where there's pasture land, where it's a middle class, where it's good and lovely, and there's no wars, and there's no drug addicts, and no neighbours from hell, and none of this, Lord. But help us, Lord, to actually be bold and to be strong and go all the way with our problems. In Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.